Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
If you love the Selling from the Heart podcast, then you know how much we value authentic leadership and building relationships with heart. But here's the thing, great leadership doesn't stop with sales. It starts at the top with CEOs who inspire trust, create meaningful cultures, and lead with purpose.
That's why we're excited to invite you to get involved with the Culture from the Heart podcast. On Culture from the Heart, we celebrate CEOs who are transforming their companies by putting people first. And we're asking you to help us find them.
Do you work for an incredible leader? Know a CEO who builds culture from the heart? Nominate them to be interviewed on the show. Together, let's spotlight the leaders who make businesses thrive by leading authentically.
So head over to cultureFromTheHeart.com to submit your nomination today. Because when leadership starts with the heart, culture and success follow. Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Hey, all kinds of things. This is like the highlight. It's a highlight when we all get together and have conversations with really cool people. We're in for a treat today, Darrell.
We're going to sell with noble purpose. You're going to love our guests today. This is going to be a phenomenal conversation. We're glad you're here. We love this community of sales professionals that are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, building trust, all of the things that comprise Selling from the Heart. We love interacting with our friends as we get to do throughout the week, every week.
Hey, I just want to give a special shout out to a dear friend of mine. His name's Stephen Ritchie, and he's a really great sales leader, very heart-centered. And just an interesting backstory. When I first met Stephen, on a good day, I'm 5'6". On a good day, Stephen's like 6'4". So it's like I needed a ladder to shake his hand, but nevertheless, great having you in the community, Stephen.
Absolutely. And if we haven't connected, we would love to connect with you. Just reach out to me and Larry on LinkedIn or the social platform of your choice. Well, guess what? We have got a treat for you today. Elizabeth Lotardo, our guest, is a consultant, writer, and training creator who helps organizations elevate both emotional engagement and leadership effectiveness. She is a thought leader whose words and ideas reach far beyond the boardroom. Elizabeth is the author of Leading Yourself, a guide to finding joy, meaning, and opportunity in your work, even when it's not perfect. She's the co-author of Selling with Noble Purpose, a contributor to Harvard Business Review, and her LinkedIn learning courses have already impacted more than 2 million learners worldwide. And she's here with us today. Elizabeth, welcome to Selling from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
It's our pleasure. We're in for a treat.
No doubt. Well, as we get started, I am really curious to hear your answer to the question that every guest on our show answers. You know what it is. What does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
To me, selling from the heart means knowing who you are and bringing the best version of that to conversations. That's my simple answer.
I love it.
This is so good. So let's unpack knowing who you are, because a lot of people find it difficult to really look inside. I don't, you don't, Darrell doesn't, but what's knowing who you are mean to Elizabeth?
Well, then maybe we're not the three best people to talk about it. I would say I know.
I think you're being too kind to all of us, Larry.
I have learned that, but that is something that didn't come naturally for me.
Yeah.
There's an expression in publishing that is, if you want to know what an author struggles with, look at the title of their book. Because that is what they had to break down, learn, practice, what didn't come naturally. So now, sure, I can talk about it, but that wasn't always the case. And I think that's what a lot of people wrestle with when we see content on LinkedIn about tapping into your personal values, that ikigai, where all the circles come together, like it's a tall order. But to me, it doesn't have to be so abstract or so scary. Knowing who you are can be picking a couple of adjectives that you aspire to be most of the time and rolling with that. You don't need some perfectly worded statement, though ChatGPT could make one for you if you wanted to.
It's it certainly can, but it sounds like it would be better to do the deeper work yourself. But hey, I'm curious though, like leading yourself, you've done a deep dive into this in terms of thinking about how you find joy, meaning, and opportunity in your work, even when it's not perfect. And I don't know if anyone's got a perfect work environment, but for all of our friends in sales who are definitely in imperfect work environments, how do you do that?
That's the burning question, isn't it? I wrote a whole book about it.
That's right.
But I'll fill you in on the punchline here. The subtitle of my book is Find Joy, Meaning, and Opportunities in the Job You Already Have. But it's really create joy, meaning, and opportunities in the job you already have. I went with find because it sounds a lot easier, but the whole book is emphasizing the create part of it. And so often we go looking for this joyful work experience. We go crossing our fingers that our boss is going to make it meaningful for us. We, hope and pray that the stars align for a promotion. But what the data tells us, and my research showed, is it is on the individual to self-lead, and that is the biggest predictor of meaning, joy, and opportunities, not the environment they're in.
Hey, so let's continue to Elizabeth to go down this road on creating this yourself. What's that look like? Because I'm a big believer that you got to do this. You got to do the work on this. So coach us through some of this.
Let's start with meaning. One of my favorite exercises to do to create meaning is to make what I call an impact map. And an impact map is a visual articulation of your ripple effect. So you're going to put your role in the center, SDR, BDR, AE, whatever it is. Fill in a couple of activities you do off of that. Make your activities like spokes. You're making cold calls, maybe. You're sending proposals. You're doing demos, whatever it is. And then push yourself to articulate the ripple effect of those things. What impact does that have? Do you help people feel heard? Do you partner with them on challenging decisions? Do you enable them to see a new future for their business? Do you help them save money so they can invest in other areas? Only when we're clear on our personal ripple effect is meaning a possibility. It never comes from a pep talk. Sorry to everyone planning their SKO now. It's not from that. It only comes from your individual heart and your ability to connect into your ripple effect.
I love that. And I really like that concept of the impact map in related to sales. We have entrepreneurs that listen as well in terms of thinking about like that role I carry as a sales professional for whatever company I'm selling. I think what's really cool is what I'm hearing about the impact map is it's not just, yes, your product or service may make an impact, but you're actually impacting the people that you interact with on a daily basis in a lot of different categories.
I would argue that you're the biggest impact, especially as AI starts to automate so many elements of the sales process. The human interaction has taken center stage as one of the most crucial pieces. And whether you're showing up excited, engaged, with empathy, really selling from your heart, I'll pull that back in, versus, oh, I kind of don't like this job. I was looking at other ones on my lunch break. Our product has all these disadvantages. That ripples out in a huge variety of ways, consciously, unconsciously, and people pick up on it.
Oh, you're so true. And people do pick up on it. So how does somebody walk themselves through this where they go, you know what? I don't care if you're an SDR, BDRA, insert title or whatever. Some of us just walk through the day and we don't really understand the impact that we have. But help someone who's fighting through this go, you know what I really do does matter.
So I'll give you some cheats. If you heard me describe the impact map and you're like, mumbo jumbo, sounds dumb, I'm not doing that. This is your shortcut. You can either go back and read customer testimonials, even if you weren't the salesperson involved. Read all the stuff that's on your company's website and really try and believe it. Yes, those are some picked and chosen, best ones, but anchor yourself in that impact. Your organization exists for a reason because you had this impact on other people. The other thing you can do is explore what would happen if you went poof and weren't there for your customers, if they didn't have the option to talk to you, to learn about your business, to explore different solutions, if they never got a reply to their lead. And when we see the absence and we see that contrast with the positive impact, the meaning story becomes clearer for us. And you don't have to do any active work like the impact map. You can simply read what's already available to kind of refill your cup.
I love it. I love it. Well, it sounds like a great way to sell with noble purpose. So I really am so excited to introduce our audience to your work with selling with noble purpose. Would you be kind enough to give us a flyover of what went into that and what your heart is for that book and the message in it?
100%. So selling with noble purpose is a philosophy and a skill set. And it's anchored in the belief and the research that those who sell with a purpose, who truly want to make a difference to their customers, impact their lives, impact their business, they outsell salespeople who are focused on their own targets and quotas, who are purely comp driven. And the research tells us you can't fake it. As much as we try with like body language classes and refining the pitch deck and getting all these ducks in a row, every time we see that the person's heart comes through in a way you can't manufacture. So selling with noble purpose is about igniting that belief and then offering a skill set to bring it out into the market.
And you know what I like about this is because if you took noble out of it and just said selling with purpose, or the other book is leading with purpose, there's some context behind it, but I think noble shines the light on how important this is.
Well, purpose, a lot of organizations would say our purpose is to make money. So we wanted to be really clear with the word noble, that it is in the service of others. Yes, you should absolutely be a profitable business. Yes, you deserve to be paid for the value you're offering into the world. But the intent is to put the spotlight on the customer.
Well, I think your point is really important because so many of us got into sales. I mean, I got into sales, decades ago because I thought this is the best way for me to make the most money the fastest. And, that attracted me to the profession in my 20s. But now, hopefully if you started there, hopefully you're not staying there. And I would guess that the majority of people that put Selling from the Heart on their playlist and are listening to us right now have gone past that. And we all go, yeah, of course, making money. That is an outcome of this. But how do I find the noble purpose? I see the bridge between this and the impact map. And it's a beautiful framework and conversation that is emerging here. What would you say to the salesperson that says, okay, selling with noble purpose, I work for a company that sells widgets, so the most boring, unpurposeful I sell dirt, whatever that just seems like it doesn't have purpose. I sell dirt. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you about my client who sold concrete. Okay. We're one tick away from dirt.
It's right.
Concrete. And if you're thinking about concrete, you might be thinking that is the most boring, commoditized, unsexy product I could imagine.
Yeah.
In a world of AI transformation, ground up rocks. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with that at the core. What does concrete do? Everything. It holds up half the world. It holds up your house. It is the foundation, quite literally, for business expansion. It is, in so many cases, the glue behind our infrastructure as communities. And sure, you can look at this bag of concrete and be like, okay, perfect, concrete. But being able to articulate the ripple effect does a couple of things. It gives the sellers some meaning, some joy, which we know radiates out into more activity, more successful activity. It gives them a story to tell their customers that this isn't just bags or trucks of concrete here. We're talking about holding up and continuing to build a functional world. And it gives the customer a renewed sense of that purpose as well. Because unfortunately, a lot of customers have been trained by bad salespeople to be quite transactional, to go right to the price, to lose all sight of the ripple effect. And when a salesperson brings it back into the equation, both sides of the conversation benefit.
It's so, this is leading down this so outcomes focused. It's so outcomes focused.
It is. And whether you call it value-driven selling or consultative selling or value-driven focus, I forget the exact word you used already, the core is the same, that focusing on making a positive impact to the other person comes back to you emotionally and it comes back to you financially.
So we've got all the sales professionals listening in right now. What advice would you give to someone who's listening and going, you know what, I'm buying into this. I like this. What would you say? How coach us along here to help make this come to life?
So if you want to bring this to life in your next sales conversation, you're going to answer this question just in your own mind. How will this customer be different as a result of doing business with you? And if you are truly a purpose-driven seller, you're going to have an answer to that, or you're going to go find it out in your next conversation. And it's not they'll have our product. It's not they'll save 10% on annual recurring cost. What impact, going back to where we started this conversation, the ripple effect, how does that improve them? How will they be different as a result of doing business with you? And in Selling with Noble Purpose, we call that the game-changing question, because it truly is the umbrella answer that holds up the entire sales process.
Hey, you know what I was just thinking? If I'm a salesperson, especially a new one, who I may not have a lot of information at my fingertips to handle all this, guess what? You work for a company that's got a bunch of customers.
Mm-hmm.
A great place to start, I think, Elizabeth, is young sellers could just go start talking to their current customers and asking them, the products that we sell. Again, I'm phrasing it in a different way, but the products we sell, what has this enabled you all to do inside your business? And that way, young sellers have a great way of figuring out and creating this bridge and how they can help as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And if that's giving you the heebie-jeebies and you're like, listen, my boss is never going to let me get on the phone with the big accounts, you can ask other sellers too to feed back examples of their most impacted customers, not necessarily the biggest commission checks they got, though we do know there's a correlation there, but examples of how the product or service has improved life for other people. And you develop this emotional arsenal of yourself, knowing that your work makes a difference. And you also have something to talk about with new prospective customers.
I love it. I love it. What a powerful paradigm. What a powerful way to think. So I want to shift the conversation to, we have so many sales leaders listening in. We have CEOs as well. Leading. How does this apply to leadership? Of course, your book, Leading with Noble Purpose. And by the way, if you haven't already hit pause on this episode and gone and grabbed Selling with Noble Purpose and thrown Leading with Noble Purpose in your shopping cart, you're going to want to do that. The links are in the show notes. But Leading with Noble Purpose, for those who are listening in going, okay, I lead a team of sales professionals. It's like herding cats. How do I lead with purpose?
So I want to clarify one quick thing. Leading with Noble Purpose is not my book. I did co-author Selling with Noble Purpose with Lisa McLeod, but Lisa McLeod, who I work very closely with, my business partner, was the author of Leading with Noble Purpose.
Beautiful.
I wrote Leading Yourself. That said, I was an editor on this Leading with Noble Purpose.
Okay.
So I know.
Well, help us out.
We'll get into it. I just didn't want to take authorship credit.
Very fair.
If you're listening to this, you likely believe yourself that your sales team has a noble purpose. And the challenge, I think, in your question is, how do I get them to believe it? How can I institutionalize this in my leadership narrative so it lives inside of the organization instead of inside of a podcast episode? And it comes down usually to leadership airtime, what you spend your time talking about. And oftentimes as a sales leader, that airtime is spent talking about the number, and that's fine, valid. You have to know the numbers. What I would say though, is there is a difference between reporting the number and improving the number. That distinction is often lost, especially on newer sales managers. Shouting the number so everyone knows it does not really change the number in most cases. And layering onto the number some customer impact. You can do that with, we have 1,000 new customers this month. Let me tell you a story about one of them and how we made a difference. You can do that with 40% of our leads didn't close. That's this many people who won't be impacted in that way. The contextualization and the framing of those numbers as a sales leader is 2 extra sentences, but often the difference between people who feel beaten down because the number's not what they wanted it to be versus empowered and driven to go make that impact and get it right.
Hey, Elizabeth, I got the title of your next book already. You waiting for it?
I don't know.
Lead
Just like
yourself.
another book. Another book.
Too soon, Larry. Too soon.
No,
Let's cut this one out.
it's a play on noble, but it's a powerful word. I'm just being stupid. But leading yourself with nobility, and I think I just like this word, and I want to go back to it so you could just like put a clear highlighter and a definition around this. Is the power nobility. So in a few words, what's nobility mean to Elizabeth? And I think, why is this so mission critical? I just had to throw that into your other book. I don't know why.
No, you know what, Larry? I think that's a good idea, but I think you should write it and I should write the forward.
You see what you did there. Good job, Larry.
So what is nobility? What does nobility mean to Elizabeth Lotardo? I think at its core, nobility is in the service of something greater. Whether that is nobility in the sales interaction, you are noble in the service of making an impact on your client, whether that is nobility in the organizational sense, you're in the service of changing an industry, redefining how we currently do something, or whether that is in the very individual sense of your noble purpose is to do something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a beautiful, beautiful paradigm. And a lot of this goes around just this heart of service that we talk about. And I think what I like about this conversation around nobility is it actually puts some definition around service, based selling, servant leadership, all of that. Those things, sound nice and squishy and great service-based selling. But when you add nobility to it and the impact, what we're doing is we're actually starting to give some definition to servant leadership and service-based selling.
So this is probably a different podcast episode that we can do, but I do have a bone to pick with servant leadership and the legacy that leaves. But the core of it, exactly what you said, this driver to be a positive impact on our organization, on our customers, on our colleagues, is the differentiator between people who are not only successful at work, but people who are happier too. And those two things, every time the research bears it out, are connected. And focusing on ourselves while tempting generally doesn't play out as well.
And I would encourage everyone who's in sales to really pay attention to this whole conversation, because you have the ability to have a positive impact. You're not just, and I'm inserting this, you're not just a salesperson. You're so much more than that. So I take this conversation to heart.
I agree with that. And in the face of a long to-do list, in the face of a manager who might be, shoving a number down your throat, it's easy to feel like just a salesperson, especially if you're getting commoditized, you're worried about AI. But rooting back to, how did I make a positive impact and how can I do that bigger, bolder, faster next time, is the only path forward that won't drive you insane.
Elizabeth, as we look at the data on mental health, and a lot of sales professionals are struggling. Our industry, our profession is at the top or bottom of a lot of lists you don't want to be at the top or bottom of. And it's a very stressful profession that we've chosen, very rewarding and a lot of pressure. I'm curious, in light of what we've talked about leading yourself and selling with noble purpose, what effect does doing this have on your mental health, your inner health, and what advice would you give to sales professionals who are struggling under the weight of the pressure that's on them right now?
There's some interesting research that connects the sense of purpose to resilience. And what is from Michigan State University, what that found was that salespeople who believe they are making an impact beyond just hitting the number and getting their boss off their back, they are more resilient in the face of a challenge. And when we think about our own lived experience, at least for me, that plays out. When I know something is at stake that's bigger than me, that someone is depending on me, I'm more likely to rise to the occasion. When I think it's only about me and it's not going well, I'll get into spot a victim very, very quickly. And we see this happen on an individual level and on an organizational level. So if you are feeling beaten down, if you are feeling like the pressure is really getting to you, anchoring in that impact and always going back to where you've been successful can really make a difference. And it sounds cheesy, and I like kind of cringe hearing myself saying it, but rereading those customer testimonials, going back to that file of your best customer, that is what fills your cup, and you cannot fake it. It will radiate out in your next interaction.
I think this also has to play out with how you start your morning off, what you do throughout the day, and what do you feed your brain? Because I'm just a massive believer that, right, all these stories that we tell ourselves, they play out over time. May not happen right away, but you keep telling the same stories over and over again. Guess what? Y'all start believing them, and then pretty soon they come into play. So I think a lot of this has to do with how do you start your morning? You've used the term, how do you fill your cup up? All of this plays out in terms of what you say upstairs.
Very true. The story you tell yourself becomes the reality that
Yep.
you live. And if you're telling yourself, this doesn't matter, everybody hates me, I won't be successful, boy, howdy, is that going to play out?
Yeah.
It is so, so true. Well, Elizabeth, what a phenomenal conversation today. And I know everyone listening in is thinking, how do I get more Elizabeth Lotardo in my life? What answer would you give to them?
ElizabethLotardo.com. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I put new content out every week, and Selling with Noble Purpose and my new book, Leading Yourself, are everywhere you buy books.
Fantastic. What a great conversation and what a joy. Thank you so much for bringing your heart here to our community today. This has been wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
That's our pleasure.
What an incredible paradigm. I want to go back to this impact map that we talked about at the beginning. Of course, you know,
it's a word near and dear to you. Yep.
It's but I think this idea of saying, hey, whether I sell concrete, dirt, or whether you're transforming the world with some incredible AI-based solution, wherever you are in all of that, what's the ripple effect? What's the impact of what you do every day? And I love this idea of going to customer testimonials. I have a yellow folder behind me in a drawer on my desk. It's labeled, I want to quit. And it's the one that I go to that, you know, when I'm just like, I'm done with this, that reminds me of this. And this is all so critical in the journey of selling from the heart and truly bringing your heart to what you do.
It's going to require some work, but I think it's work well done. Is you got to unpack this, because if you do, you're going to start standing head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah. So grab a copy of Elizabeth's books, do the work on this one. This one is really, I double dog dare you to sit down in a quiet moment over the weekend or in an evening with a piece of paper, start drawing those circles and think about the impact, because I think this is going to have a massive impact on, as Elizabeth said, not only your success in terms of, you know, breaking sales records and goals and all of that, but also your satisfaction, your fulfillment in what you do. And leaders, don't skip over this one as well, because you've got the opportunity, as Elizabeth said, during that airtime, to be able to leverage that airtime you have with your people to communicate the impact that we're having together. And that's a game changer as well. Incredibly powerful concepts here today.
No, absolutely. And I just, before you sign off, Darrell, I just want to say that we sincerely appreciate y'all, because if it's not for everyone who watches and or listens to this podcast, we're not here. So thank you for waving the flag. Together, we're all making a difference in taking this forward.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, sell with noble purpose, and most of all,
sell from the heart.